right? So
Around what age were you for this? Like, around what age were you first introduced to this kind of like the games and the arcades at the bowling alleys?
yeah, so I was elementary to middle school around that,
Okay.
so I was still fairly young. Okay, I was still fairly young. I was like, 10, 12 years old, right? By the time like Street Fighter 2 came out, I remember playing Street Fighter 1. Like, it was just nobody played that, uh, versus each other. It was just
Yeah.
yeah, it was like people treated that game like it was Karate Champ, and you would rarely see people play two players on Karate Champ. The game with the two sticks, right? And if you ever try to play any fighting game prior to Street Fighter, it was just like Year Kung Fu or something like that, and people weren't really playing together. People were still like focused on the points. It's like, I beat the game, or I get
Like
the high
having
score.
the high score. Yeah. getting the
Right.
high
It
score.
was nothing like, I could stay on the machine and beat people. So, but oh man, as time passed a bit, right? But I was already hooked going to the arcade. My uncle he would know, like, hey, there's certain times I can't take you because I started to get too. It's all I wanted to do was just go to the arcade and have fun, right? But like, I was still too young, so I needed to go with someone, right? So here I am, riding my bike to school and back, and I'm like, you know what? My parents aren't coming home for a while, and I can probably just go on my own and and face the music if they yell at me or whatever. And then this is the important part right here, man. This is what I remember very clearly. So one day, and this is like 1991, right? I went to, 7-Eleven to, go get a Slurpee and like Funyuns, and that was the thing to get, right? That was the best combo, right?
What city was this in? What city?
This was in, it's like the border of Huntington Beach and Fountain Valley in Orange County. So this is the cross street, the infamous cross street right here is like Newland and Warner. Okay. That's like where I first saw Street Fighter 2. And I was this 7-Eleven, and at the time, the 7-Elevens in the 90s or earlier had a little small arcade center. Like a very, like, maybe 4 cabinets deep, right? Like it even had like Super Nintendo cabinet. Like you would play Super Mario Brothers on a damn cabinet, right? Wow. Or Donkey Kong or Galaga, whatever the games they had, right? As time progressed, they started to get better games. And I saw Street Fighter 2 there, and I saw like a little crowd. I saw like 3 or 4 people on it. And I'm like, okay, usually, remember I said people only play games by themselves. People are actually playing together, right? I'm like, what is this, right? This looks pretty dope. But, I went to 7-Eleven, I got what I needed. I left, and I was hungry. I was more hungry, right? I went to around the plaza, I went to my local burger joint called Bun & Burger. And I went over there to order some food, and I saw another Street Fighter machine in there because I knew they had a couple arcade games. And I'm like, wait, there's a lot more people here than this 7-Eleven. What's going on? All right. So I'm like, what? Okay. What is this game? This game looks sick. This game's like, all right. You know what? If the game is a 7-Eleven and the game is at my local, burger spot, I'm going to go to my arcade, which is called Beach and Warner Arcade. And that's the arcade that, when I went there that same day, because I was so curious, I'm like, no, this game's got to be at my arcade. Went over there, and it was freaking crazy, dude. It was like 10, 15 of those machines, and every single machine had a bunch of people. There was 10 deep. Bro, it was like going to esports arena packed like week 1 Street Fighter 5, bro. It was crazy. I kid you not. It was I fell in love more so than like my stupid little 1-player games. I'm like, dude, you get to play people. Like, I was just there, dude, and I got in trouble for staying there too long because my parents went looking for me. But yeah, that was like the beginning of where I fell in love with this stuff, man.
So tell me, like, when you walk in and you see all these people there. You're mentioning that it's like day one at Esports League from Esports Arena for Street Fighter 5. I remember walking into that tournament. I remember being there for that very first one, and it was packed big time. So I have an understanding of what that place must have looked like. But tell me, you're a teenager, you walk in, you feel the energy of the place, there's a buzz, everyone's surrounding these cabinets. What did you do? Like what was the next 30 minutes to an hour, or even you said you spent all day there. What did that look like for you?
Okay, so there in the arcade at those times, well, if you knew how to maneuver in a really prime real estate arcade or well-known arcade, you knew that there's kind of rules to this stuff. So yes, you can put your quarter up and play, but you have to see, like, okay, which one can I play quickly because I don't have that much time? Can I find a machine that's smaller that maybe have two people on it or one or whatever? Because I didn't know that the complete etiquette yet, because I was just like, man, I can't wait this long. So I literally sat there first before I put a quarter up, and I'm like, man, this takes forever for me to play a game, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I don't have that much time. So I went to another machine. I didn't know how to play this game. I just was like super intrigued. And there's no move lists, right? Everybody's just playing. They're just minding their own business. They're playing.
This is Hyper Fighter, right? If I'm
no,
not
this
mistaken,
is Street Fighter 2.
The original Street Fighter 2.
The original World Warrior Street Fighter 2.
World Warrior, okay.
Yeah, this is like 1991, bro.
Okay.
1991. So I finally get to play this thing, and I'm like, okay, I'll pick like the karate guy. I pick Ryu, right? So I didn't even really know the names of the characters, and I'm just like flailing around. What's the button? And I'm just moving around, and I'm like, okay, I'm just doing basic karate moves, and I'm just getting beat up, and I die, right? I'm like, I'm not getting anything out. So I'm like, all right.
Against the computer or against somebody else?
This was the first time I played. The two people that were there, I waited for them to leave because they only played like 2 games and then they left. And then I had the game to myself. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I get to try it. And yeah, I got beat up. And I didn't know any of the moves. So I'm like, all right, let me pick the girl, which was Chun-Li. Maybe, I don't know. I was just kind of like, all right, let me just go down the list here. So I pushed the kicks really fast, randomly, and lo and behold, the lightning legs come out. I'm like, okay, I know a move, and I'm like super excited because I figured something out. So I mean, you gotta understand.
Imagine getting excited doing lightning legs for the first
bro.
time.
Like, you gotta understand. There's nothing like this game. Nobody telling you what to do, right? Everybody's playing it, so you're already like intrigued, like, what is this? So I figure something out, and then I my competitive ass does, I'm like, okay, I beat some of the computer, I beat some of the characters, then I die, right? And then I try to go challenge, right? And I see other kids like doing sonic booms and flash kicks, and nobody would tell you how to do any of this crap, man. Man. Like, I'm like, man, what the hell? But that was like my first encounter with Street Fighter 2. They got my local arcade, and it was starting to get late because I didn't have much money, right? I can only play a couple games, right? And then I'm like kind of watching, and I couldn't stay too long. So eventually went home, and now you know how it works, dude. I'm like daydreaming about this stuff. I'm like, have this in my head now, like, this character does that. Guile, this character, the soldier guy, he does a kick that goes up, maybe down to up, maybe he's see it. And I actually figured out his flash kick without anybody telling me. So yeah. So those beginning, like humble beginnings of a new journey, like a game that pioneered the way, pioneered the fighting game genre, and that was probably one of the most memorable moments of my life, experiencing something like that.
It's it's amazing because when I think about my first experience with Street Fighter, it's the earliest memory for me. And I remember buying Street Fighter 4 very vividly, even though I was 14 years old. It's crazy how Street Fighter can have such an impact on our psyche to allow us to vividly remember the images. When you're telling the story, I truly feel like I'm looking through your eyes of being a little kid and just, seeing all these people standing and you figuring out the lightning legs for the first time. That's that's amazing. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to that. And I know that we have a lot more stories to talk about as well. And actually, one of the stories that I want to dive right into is how I met you. When I first started playing the game, I was about 14, 15 years old. And I remember my first experience of watching a tournament for Street Fighter was Evo Grand Finals, Daigo versus Justin Wong. So when I saw that, I was mind blown that this could be done professionally and there's tournaments for it. So I started to have this drive of being really good online without even knowing about a scene or anything. And then Filipino Man on Xbox Live connects me with Brent. I end up meeting Brent. He lives 5 minutes away from my house. I'm 15 years old at this time. He introduces me to the locals. And then we start looking at where are their tournaments. And we saw the SRK forums talking about Wednesday night fights. So, and obviously your name is brought up a lot during those forums. So I'm thinking, man, fuck this Valle guy. I'm about to go fuck him up. Like, who the hell is this guy? I'm about to shit on everybody because I was a cocky little kid that thought that I was really, really strong. And so we started traveling as a crew, the High Desert crew, to Wednesday night fights. And I remember the first time meeting you, being around that energy, and the way you described the energy of you being in that arcade and seeing all the people standing, the vibe of it, the atmosphere. That's exactly how I felt when I walked into Super Arcade. It was immediately hooked, addicted. The essence of it was like everything that I wanted. I just felt like I was at home. This is my area. And then I remember meeting you. Obviously, this was after my first tournament was Evo, which I went 0-2 in. But then I started attending Wednesday night fights. But then I met you, and I was, then maybe I could have you talk about how I was as a 15, 16-year-old kid. But that was just an amazing experience for me, finding Wednesday night fights and all the memories that we made together from it.
Yeah, man, no, it's a wonderful story to share. Everybody has their own upbringings with the game, and what I like to share with everyone all the time when they say, "Hey, what does a fighting game? What does a fighting game genre mean to you or the community?" I'm like, well, it starts with the game. Like, we love the game, but as you play it more and more, it ends up being about the people, because you can only play the game for so long. You can only master it for so long, and things change, updates and stuff, but it's the people that drive you, right? Like your rivals, your friends, your frenemies, everyone involved. It just it gives you a motivation, purpose, just a feeling of like, there's another family out there that enjoys the same thing I do, and we take it serious, or we talk about it. It's like it's our little nerd kingdom.
It felt like a second home.
It's
really
and it's fun, it's silly, it's fun, and it's been around for a long time. So I'm glad, you experienced, you had a chance to experience what I did, in your way. So
yeah, how was it? Like, what was your memory of meeting me? I'm actually curious about that story, because I remember what it was like, but I was still very young. I mean, it's hard to remember things when you're 15, 16, but tell me what that was like, since you were a lot older.
Yeah, no, so no, I understood many new faces coming to the scene and making a name or just showing you what they got, right? And because I was that way too, when beyond just playing for fun, and now I'm like, okay, now I know the moves, Now I know some strategies. Now I'm beating people at the arcade. I graduated to the big boy machine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that little journey. And then I see a little bit of you, or a little bit of me in you, in the same way. Like I want to know, it's that journey to figure out if you have what it takes. Are you going in the right direction? Like you beat people online. That's literally the digital arcade. People can down talk online play, but let's be honest, man. The arcades have been gone since like 2005, 2004, like done. And anybody that's been able to maintain an arcade past that, I mean, hats off. It's just not. They've turned into like a redemption house, like those little stupid redemption games. But anybody that's still doing like LAN centers and stuff like that with your locals, hats off to you. But the digital arcade is the online scene, and you're pretty much the next generation of it, because we've had online play back in like Xbox Live days and Kylera days, and this is way way back, but it wasn't like a not that many people played it as today. And so when you were showing people like what you had with Ken, and I saw like you were a little hothead, you wouldn't take you wouldn't like take anybody else's philosophy or strategy close to heart yet. You just were so stuck in your like, no, you know what, I shouldn't be listening to that, and like it's just you needed some time to cool down, and I saw it, and that was at the time what I felt like was holding you back a little, until you were mentored, not just by me, but like you had a really good crew around you, man, that supported you when you had to like take a breath outside and stuff. And it was great. It was refreshing. And I think I always took it serious with you too. And because dude, you were playing the best people in the country, bro. Oh every week.
Yeah, we were.
Every week, dude, you were playing like an online Tony, a Snake Eyes, me,
Kino, you,
right? The freaking Combo Fiend, the Inner City guys, San Diego guys, like, dude, they were, dude, it
was packed,
dude.
Many crews,
bro. It was a freaking, it was hard, bro.
Yeah, it was really, really hard, and
yeah, it was really hard,
God,
bro.
Man.
So.
Losing all those times and stepping outside into the parking lot, watching the rest of the tournament go over and over and over again, bro. I tell the story sometimes. I used to lap up when we would go to Wednesday night fights. As a 15, 16-year-old, I would get in a car without a seatbelt, lie down on people just so I could get to Wednesday night fights, because we didn't have enough room in our car. I was that devoted, bro. Lying down for an hour and a half there. You play, you lose, an hour and a half back, salty and upset. And the whole time I'm laying down, I'm like, fuck, what did I do wrong? Why did I do this? And then just back on the grind the next day. So it's just crazy. And man, you and I can talk so much about our own experiences and the journey that we've gone through together for the last 15 years, but that would take forever to go into.